This is Support is Sexy, episode 361, with Summer Felix, co-founder of The Draw Shop. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. And you know, this is December now. If you're listening to this in real time, and we're winding down the year, already heading into 2018. But if you still have some decisions that you need to make before the year is out, some things that you've been wanting to do, some ways you've been wanting to move forward, some things you've been wanting to let go of, don't worry. I want you to sign up for my free course on how to make brave decisions. Go to makebраvedecisions.com. How to make brave decisions at makebраvedecisions.com. Now, on today's episode, I'm so excited to welcome a woman who also talks about making brave decisions, or really the power of saying yes, even before you're ready, which is something a lot of us struggle to do. Our guest today is Summer Felix, and Summer is the co-founder of a great innovative company called The Draw Shop. And The Draw Shop creates those videos. You ever see those animated whiteboard videos? They're sketched out usually as a voiceover is giving a presentation. The Draw Shop creates those videos, animated whiteboard videos, as marketing tools for their client. And her company is growing and having tremendous success. So we talked to her about that, about marketing, about copywriting, which is something that is definitely a skill. And Summer is very experienced in copywriting, so she gives us tips on that. But she also talks about something that I'm very passionate about, the importance of self-care being a part of your success strategy in your business. Cannot forget about self-care, cannot stress it enough. Summer also talks about the importance of carving out your hustle time and having your own time. She shares knowing when it's time to pivot. We talked about brave decisions, right? Sometimes you got to know when to let go. Summer also says, even if you fail, there's always a payoff. How to find a partner that complements you. Also, why your support system should include mentors and masterminds. All about it around here. Support is sexy. And she tells us why these animated whiteboards work so well as a marketing tool, not just from opinion, but also from a neuropsychology standpoint. So you're going to love this episode. Lots of fun, great information. Summer is fantastic. So now, without further ado, Summer Felix. So Summer, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Now, our first question. When did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur. He's always been an entrepreneur. And I think I really fell in love with the lifestyle that we had because I had a dad that he had his own business. He was up early in the morning, but he picked me up from school every day. And I had both of my parents after school at the end of each day. And he wouldn't have really so much been able to do that had he not had his own business and determined his own hours. So I think it's kind of something that I've always looked at and said, well, that's what I want to have. I want to have life on my own terms. So I think it was definitely a young age. And I think I also had some experiences in probably about 15 when I had my first tax paying job and I was working for someone else. And there was just kind of this restricted feeling of having to be somewhere because somebody else said you had to be there at that time. And then it was time to leave. And it was just something that never quite sat really well with me.
You express it so well. I think that's been the thing for me. I kind of thought that, but then hearing you say it, that especially the idea of someone else controlling your time.
Yes.
Yes, that was
pretty much it. It's just it's a freedom lifestyle to be an entrepreneur and be in control of your own destiny, really.
Now, when you were younger, did you know of course, we all use the term entrepreneurship now, but did you know, even if not the term, that my dad is able to do this because he has his own business? Or is that something that you feel like you look back on as you got older and realized that?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think I ever really understood the term entrepreneur until I became one myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just always looked at my dad as he's a business owner, he's a business guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not crazy with his, like he wasn't the type that was the workaholic type. So I actually thought entrepreneurship when I became older was you're like slaving all day long to get your business going, which, let's be honest, sometimes that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
But like successful entrepreneurship is when you really become good at managing your time. And then there's the time to hustle. And then there's the time to just be free and relax. And part of that hustle you really enjoy and you love. So I had always seen with him, yes, there were times where he was super working hard, but I never had like that experience of my dad's a workaholic, I don't get to spend time with him. That just never happened. And so, I guess to answer your question, I had different definitions of entrepreneurship. And now I think of them as, I think of successful entrepreneurship. And what does that mean? It means freedom of living your life the way you want.
Right. And do you feel like that's something that you have taken into all of the businesses that you've created, that mindset, I guess, this idea of you want it to be ultimately a circumstance where you have the time for the grind, as they say, or the hustle, and then the time for the relaxation? Because a lot of us just go all in. It's all about, and I've been guilty of this, all about the business, cut out everything else. And then you realize once you get to the point you have to relax, that you need to have that in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're being realistic, if we could have it perfect all of the time, we would, where it's like, okay, this is the time to hustle, this is the time to be free. But sometimes things come up and your business will require a ton of your attention, just like family matters or relationships. And sometimes it's coming at a time where you're like, I didn't plan for this. And I'm such a planner. I am such a planner. So as best as I can, I feel like the more that you can have a day planned or days planned where you're super focused and you are hustling, and then the days that are free, and then the days that are maybe a little bit lighter, that you're taking care of some other, just things to get off of your list, I think is awesome, because then you're more prepared and you're better set up to deal with the, whatever challenge might arise. And they do arise no matter, what level of success you are. It's just the way that life goes. But the best that you can organize your normal life,
right? Exactly.
the more, effective you can be. And I'm such a fan of that. And I work with, I don't know if you know of Strategic Coach and Dan Sullivan, but I do business coaching with them, and it's really, there's so much business, but there's also so much life in it. And you schedule out your calendars to have what he calls buffer days, which is kind of taking care of those items that you just need to get out of the way. They don't necessarily, produce money, but they're things that you need to get done. And then there's the super focus days, like the things that you need to do to make money. And then there's free days where you absolutely do nothing related to work at all, and you just clear your brain. And it's so it's so hard to do. It's so incredibly hard. After
clearing your brain. Summer, I was just going to say, you still think about it, but you try not, at least for me, I still think about the business, but I try not to do anything on the business on certain days.
Oh, it's so true. It's like, that's exactly it. And it is hard because he challenges us. His whole thing is 24 hours, not even, you can't read a business book. Like, it's just, you are being free. Go get a manicure, go get a massage, go take a walk on the beach, spend time with your kids, do something with your spouse, And while you love doing those things, it's like, well, can't I just take 2 hours to check my email?
Exactly.
Or,
that big $1 million deal might come in that a half hour that I'm not checking it.
Yeah. But it's amazing, and sometimes what ends up happening to us is that we work ourselves so hard that you get sick. And then you have those days where you really can't focus or you really can't think about work because you're just feeling so crummy. But the funny thing is you'll come out of it and go, I actually kind of feel refreshed. I'm ready to get back in. So it's like, there's like the forced relaxation, the forced free time, or, the kind that you choose without having to feel sick and actually enjoying your free time. But I think it's so beneficial because clearing your brain does allow you to have new insights and a different perspective when you go back into it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, have started to speak about a lot more often. This idea of clearing space, whatever that looks like, a day or whatever it is, to really have that relaxation or off time or whatever you need it to be, because in the long run, it will affect your wellness if you don't do that, or your mental health. And a lot of entrepreneurs talk about either feeling suicidal or just depressed or whatever it is. So we've started having those conversations more than just hustle and grind and all of those kind of things. It's like, make time, structure your time so you have time to grind, but then also that time that you need this. This isn't something like you're slacking off for some reason, which I think a lot of us sometimes feel like that when we create that space to get a manicure.
Yeah, it's so true. I've done away with that guilt. I used to have such guilt for that. And then I realized, well, I actually, I'm not going to be any good if I just keep going and just like draining all of everything that's good inside. And I know it's hard because being an entrepreneur it's awesome, but it's also scary. It's a ton of pressure because while you are in control of your time, everything is also up to you.
Right. You're in control of your time, which could be the problem.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, and even with the best of teams, you are thinking about it and you are wanting it to be the best that it can be. And nobody's as invested in it as you. And for most entrepreneurs, they have a big why of why they have their business to begin with. It's really important to them, and there's like a bigger, impact that they want it to have. So there's so much like always at stake. And but so it's easy to feel guilty that, oh my gosh, like I really need to be tending to these emails, or I really should be opening up that extra time for meetings. But like the reality is, if you go into a meeting or if you do a phone call or an interview or whatever it is that's promoting your business and you're not fully there, it's almost like it's just, you could end up doing more damage. So why not be the very best that you can be and allow yourself to really structure that into, almost think of it as this is part of what I need to do in order to have a successful business.
Right.
It's necessary.
And that's so true. And that's the best way for people to think about it. As you said, this is part of the business, as people now talk even more about health and fitness, exercise, and all of those things go into being a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So now you had this revelation when you were 15 with the first tax-paying job about definitely wanting to be an entrepreneur or having that desire. What was your first job, your first business, once you got to the point where you decided to actually become an entrepreneur? Because you've had several. Yeah.
So after all of the little startups that I had done in college, like party planning and little things like that. The first business was actually with my ex-husband that we went into together. And it was right at the time when the internet was everyone was on the internet, actually. I mean, it was born before that, but it was now all of a sudden people were buying stuff off of the internet. It wasn't just for email. And they started, oh my gosh, you can actually create an info product and teach people something and they will buy it. And then all of a sudden there was, you could start to pay for your advertising, and you don't have to just have organic search. You could actually pay and be up there right when they search for your term and, things like that. Like, now it's just like everybody knows what that is, but it was at the time, it was so fresh and new. And so
what year was that?
This was, oh gosh, it was probably 1999, 2000, somewhere around there. Yeah. And so, we were just, we weren't even married yet. And we were in our little apartment in Sherman Oaks, California. And he was my fiance at the time, had this idea. And it was like, well, yeah, let's do it. And we started selling a product, how to repair your credit, because he's like, everybody has this problem, and especially we at the time were like, so we were in our 20s and it was like all these young kids in their 20s had this problem. And he was like, I've got to find out how people can fix this, and that's, one of the first things when you're starting a business is find the problem and then find the way to fix it. And so, it was, let's put some personal story into there. Let's share our experience. And it started to sell really well. And so that was the first business that then turned into, coaching people. I mean, there were so many things under that came from that one business. We had coaching businesses, how to teach people how to build their businesses online. So many different things.
And this was while you were still in college or just after?
And this was after college.
Okay.
This was just after college. Yeah. And we had that business for about 9 years. And then we sold that, and we split up. We had 2 kids together, and we split up. We're still very friendly, and it's all good. But I would say that experience in having that business, we made tons of mistakes, like a ton of mistakes that both of us have respectively learned from, and then built new businesses knowing what not to do and what to do.
What would you say is one of those biggest learning lessons, teaching moments, I should say, from that business, if you said it was a ton of mistakes?
Yeah.
First businesses, it's just how it is. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think, who you choose as your team is absolutely critical. To have a team that really is, some people we had hired friends that you end up maybe overpaying, and then it doesn't go, you're still friends with them, but it maybe doesn't go so well because, you're too close. And then you feel guilty, and then you keep on, members of your team for much longer than you should. So one great lesson that I have learned, and my business partner today has also learned this lesson in his previous businesses, is, really making sure that at the beginning you're doing all the right things to vet a person before they become part of your team. And we do like different kinds of testing, personality testing. We do Colby, and we do some things to see, like, is this person, because we treat our team like our family. So is this somebody who's really going to be here for the long run and really treat this business as their own? So in our business, everybody in our business, it's kind of like their little department that they take care of is their own business. So they might work for us, but they all kind of have that entrepreneurial mindset, which is awesome because we can all collaborate together really well, and it's different minds, coming together with different ideas all the time. So that was a big lesson, to have that type of person who's really invested and shares the same vision for your company. Another thing that is really huge, and I probably say this frequently whenever I'm asked, is really understanding where your money is going and being transparent about it. Some people get so scared to look at their finances and like they'll just say yes to something, yes to a new service, like, yes, let's do that. And we'll see what the return is, that this will be awesome. But without really going, okay, let's really take a look at this. And what do we expect? What are we actually measuring here by doing this? So really just having a clear understanding of all of your numbers and what's happening, and doing like frequent check-ins on all of that, because things change so much. You can't ever get too comfortable. That's a big thing too, is like, you can't ever get too comfortable with the way things are running, because things are always changing. I mean, I feel like every month we're talking to our digital marketing team, and things are changing with how we're doing our marketing, because there's something new and better, and it's happening faster and faster. So it's like, okay, now we want to try this. Now we want to try that. I mean, 5 years ago, we weren't doing the type of ads we're doing now. We probably weren't spending as much in digital marketing, because there wasn't all of these cool things that you could do with Facebook ads at the time,
Right. Because the industry overall changes, marketing.
Yeah. So you really have to stay current. I don't think there's a set it and forget it for any type of business. It's always being, thinking about the future and where things are going, and trying to, equip your business to operate that way and get there before it's too late.
Yes, definitely. Now, do you think also, as far as what you mentioned earlier, I think is so important about knowing your numbers? Would you say that that's something you advise for the women entrepreneurs listening, no matter what size your business is? Because I think even if you're a solopreneur, looking at, I've done this before, looking at things like, what are these little subscription services that I have that I'm not even using? You'd be surprised how much your money just, of course, you're doing things with bigger budgets and that kind of thing, but no matter what size your business is, really doing an assessment of where is your money going?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I even do, it will literally take me, I think I learned this from, I'm a big fan of Alexa von Tobel, and she has a show called Financially Fearless. She's on the radio. She has books. She's the founder of LearnVest, and I love her. And I love her because she has really simple ways of managing your money. And so I have taken that personally, and then I also look at that for business. And she has what she calls a daily minute, which I love, your daily money minute. And basically, it's just taking a minute to look at everything. You're just kind of looking at, okay, let me look at my accounts. What's gone out today? What am I expecting to come in? That type of a thing, so that you always know where you're at. Because sometimes people, it's like, okay, I'll check in once a month, or it's, I'm too scared to look, so I'll check in another week, and then all of a sudden you just look at what's left in my account. Okay, what am I going to do? And it's not even, if you can actually look every day and look at those things, you'll start to see, oh, wait, why? That's right. We joined that membership or that subscription. We tried it out. It's been 2 months now. And you know what? I don't think it's working so well. So let's pause on that for a while. Mm-hmm. And then, you're saving whatever you're saving. And it might be $50, but that adds up,
Right.
But yeah, just really being aware of that. And also, you can measure everything, right? So what are you spending on in terms of, team members, in terms of, are you doing social media? Are you paying somebody to do that? And what are you getting in return for that? So just always being on top of that. And granted, some things might take time. Some things might take 3 to 6 months before they really ramp up, and it's an investment right now. But as long as you keep looking at it and be aware of it, it's so much more easy to manage. And I think you won't find yourself get shocked
mm-hmm.
or like in that oh crap moment.
Exactly. I love that. I hadn't heard of her, Alexa von Tobel. I'll make sure that I link to that. I love the daily money minute. That's great. Yeah. Yes, excellent. And that doesn't make it feel, it just shouldn't anyway, but it makes it feel less overwhelming.
Exactly.
More like a habit.
Yeah. Just look at everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the first business that you mentioned and other businesses since then, did you sell those businesses and then now into your new business, the Draw Shop, or what was your way of exiting those businesses?
So the other businesses that I had with my ex-husband, we sold those businesses. And then after that time, I was newly divorced. So it was me and my 2 kids. And I really had, just a short amount of time to really figure out, okay, what am I going to do now? And my daughter was only, like she was less than a year old. Mm-hmm. And my son was about 2.5. And, being a single mom now, it was like, okay, what can I do that I can still be with my kids? And what can I do where I can still have the lifestyle that I want? And so what I did first, because somebody had mentioned Elayne had come out at the time, and it was like, you know what, Summer, you're so great at copywriting, because I did a lot of the copywriting for the businesses I had before. Why don't you do that just for fun while you're figuring things out? So I thought, okay, I'll do that. And I started, luckily I had the experience and a good background that it wasn't too hard to get jobs. And so I started doing that. But it was funny because I still had this, I was so tied to the name of a business and to my ex-husband in terms of like, what's the word? Like my identity, I guess, mm-hmm. that it was really like kind of like this crazy experience going out there now as just me. Like It was kind of very scary.
Mm-hmm. No, and I can imagine this, whether you've gone through a divorce or anything, sometimes just separating from that past or moving beyond that past, it can be difficult and more traumatic isn't the word, but maybe dramatic than we anticipate until we're actually doing it. So I totally get it.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And that's where I was. And it was, just like, oh my gosh, let me just put myself out there. And can I do this? I've been writing on these topics, but can I actually write on all these other topics? And, I had some successes. I had some failures. I had people that loved what I did for them. I had people that were just like, no. Mm-hmm. And, it's crushing. And then there were the moments that, I started to have a good streak, and it was like, okay, well, now maybe I should start charging more, which is also scary, right? Because you have to make sure that you feel that you're actually worth that. So it was a really interesting, but such a necessary experience. And through that experience, I ended up meeting some amazing people. I ended up connecting with a really awesome producer for infomercials, and he had a production company, and he said, hey, can you write some copy for infomercials? Yeah. So it turned out we were from the same town, and I said, yeah, definitely. And I was also at the point where I just said yes to everything, even though if I hadn't done it before, I was like, yes, I'll figure it out, I'll do it. And sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. And
was this still through Elance or freelancing overall that you were finding these different clients?
So I got this connection through a client from Elance. Mm-hmm. And so that's how that happened. Mm-hmm. And I started writing infomercials, and then that led into directing infomercials, and that led into ghostwriting books, which happened on the set of an infomercial when the director at the time said, hey, we're promoting this free book giveaway to go along with, whatever, when people buy this product. However, we haven't really written the book yet. They had the cover designed and everything. So they're showing the whole book. Do you write books? And of course, in that moment, I say, yeah, totally,
absolutely.
I totally write the book. And I did, actually. And I had a blast doing it. And it was fun. And I ended up doing ghostwriting for years. I'm trying to think of how long, but it was a long time, and I was still doing it when I started the draw shop. So I was ghostwriting, and I started getting connected to. It was mostly referrals. I started getting connected to some pretty amazing people, and the next thing you know, I was writing books for multi-time New York Times bestselling authors. And I was kind of like pinching myself, like, how am I writing their book? And these people are, just to say, being a ghostwriter, some people go, oh my gosh, so they weren't even writing their own books, and nobody knows who they are because I'm not allowed to say. But I will say these authors that I have written for are geniuses. They just don't have the time. Right. They pretty much are the writers. They have all of the knowledge. They are speaking to me in interviews and everything. It's more or less putting it all together into a really beautiful book that's going to change people's lives. That's their intention. They just don't have the time because most of them are speakers, and they're, all over the world, and they've got these big careers to sit down and write a book. They just don't have the time. So just to
thank you so much for saying that was going to be one of my questions to ask you about with ghostwriting. How does it work? And the idea that some of us get caught up in of, oh, this person didn't write the book themselves, even though it's all their information. They're transferring that information to another person who can capture it all and present it in all of these ways.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
yep.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Now, for you, when you started the or not even the ghostwriting, in general, you've spoken some just about, we always hear now about you got to learn how to say no and the importance of saying no and saying no. But I love to focus on people like you who, even when you weren't sure or were afraid even, you said yes. And saying yes so many times has gotten you in many ways to the point that you are now. So can you speak to the women listening just about the moments when you have to be courageous enough to say yes?
Yeah. And I will say, I absolutely 100% know how paralyzing it can be. And when you have that fear inside of you of having to say yes to something that you really don't feel that confident. It's easy to say yes when you know something like the back of your hand. Mm-hmm. When you're stepping into something that you really don't know, it is definitely terrifying. And we do that as entrepreneurs all the time, right? You're constantly doing new things, and it's scary. I still deal with that all the time.
And especially if it's something you're saying yes to. I think you mentioned also whether you're coming out of a marriage or a business partnership, or even for people who have had a failure in a previous business, you might be afraid to say yes to the next thing. But again, you still have to find the courage to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and really, it's like there is always a payoff, even if you fail at what you said yes to. I don't regret any single thing that I ever said yes to, because everything was either a learning lesson to how to do it. Okay, I'm not going to do it that way again. This is how I'm going to do it. It made me better in some shape or form. Like it absolutely attributed to, the success that I've had in my business today, 1000%.
Right. So let's talk about your business today, the Draw Shop. Tell us how you met this. Is this your co-founder that you met through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You met your co-founder. And then how did the Draw Shop take its shape?
So I actually met my co-founder through, I would sometimes go to some events that I'd been invited to through clients and through authors that I was working with, and sometimes, invited to speak on stage. And he was there for one of those times in the audience. And I think we may have just kind of had like a bland introduction or whatever. So I knew of him. The next thing I knew was that I was working for a client that he was also working with. And my business partner used to be the vice president of a fulfillment and coaching company. So I was working for an author who had programs that he was selling, and books, and it was coaching for businesses, that type of a thing. And so I had gone to a meeting and I met my business partner on a more like, okay, I remember you level. And we became friends. Now, the funny thing is that client that we were both working with, we both like agreed this is not somebody that we can work with. Didn't have the values, the morals, any of that kind of stuff, which is pretty important. No, you want to say yes to things, but you don't want to say yes to something that is not in alignment with who you are at the core. Because I promise you, it will always play out and not in the right way.
Right.
The best you get from that are lessons, of course. But that's one piece of advice. But again, this is something that led me to my business partner. So there was, there was the silver lining. So we had started talking. We just became friends. And one day he sends to me, he said, hey, I'm going to send you a link. Open it up. Okay. So he sends me a link, and it's a video that was Dan Pink's talk on education reform. It was his TED Talk that was turned into a whiteboard animation video.
I think I've seen that.
Yes. I mean, like, so many people have seen it. And the crazy thing is that when you look at the recorded talking head version of this video of him doing the TED Talk, there's a ton of views. Then you look at the whiteboard version, and there's just like so many more. I don't even remember the exact numbers, but it's just like it kind of blows your mind. Like, wow, so many more people watched this. And the first thing I said was, yep, I know exactly what you mean. We were just we kind of didn't even have to say anything. It was like, we need to be doing this, because we were both, he's really good at sales. I was good at copywriting and sales letters. And I had so many clients ask me, who do you know that can do videos? Because I want to do a video sales letter. And I just thought, well, this is going to like kill it. And this is before, the whole people even knew what whiteboard videos were. I think that video that Dan Pink had out that RS Animate did for them was pretty much one of the only whiteboard videos out at the time. And so we said, okay, we've got to try it. And so my business partner was like, all right, cool. Neither of us can draw, but I know some artists. You know how to write. I know how to sell. We just kind of just put all these pieces together, and we said, let's just try it. So I said, well, actually, I have a client that needs a video. Let's try it with his, and let's compare it to his control video. And we did that, and it just doubled like instantly. It was amazing, and he was thrilled and so excited. We made the video in Eric's, that's my business partner, in his garage.
Really?
So we set up what we thought we needed to have. I mean, and it's so funny when you look at the quality back then of what we tried to do. It was not
but
nothing.
You got to do it when it's imperfect, right?
Exactly. But we were like, we're going to do it anyways, and we're going to figure it out. And then as you do it, there's this whole learning curve of figuring out lighting and how the setup needs to be, and all different things. And what happens when there's like weird speckles and like all the little things that come up. So what kind of markers do we need to get? All of that. And how many, how much can we draw in this amount of time? And now how do we edit it? How do we time lapse it? How do we do the voiceover? All of that. We just had to figure it out. And we did. And that one video was such a success. We then had 2 more people saying that they wanted videos. So we said, okay, all of a sudden, just by referral, we have all these people asking, and Eric and I are managing everything while he's still vice president of a company, while I'm still ghostwriting 4 books at a time. It was kind of getting crazy, but at the same time, we said, you know what? I can't scale ghostwriting as myself doing it. There's only so much I can do. He was ready for a change, and we said, are we ready to just put our all into this? And we did. And we were lucky enough that we were making money before we really had to spend any money. So we bootstrapped the whole thing, and we took the first large amount of money that we made to go pay for a pretty big sponsorship at an event. And we said, we're just going to put it right back in, and this is what we're going to do. And that was another big point for us. We got ourselves out there, we got seen, and we brought an artist with us, and we were showing how the drawings were done. We showed sample videos, and it was just amazing. I think we made so much off of that one event, and we were able to like really start to be the person in whiteboard animation videos. And then we just kept going and going each year. And then, as we grew, it was time to say, okay, now we need a project manager. Okay, now we need this person. Okay, now we need more artists. Now we need this. Now we need that. So it started with just Eric and I, and now we're like, a team of 30 people. Wow. And then we have independent contractors as well, that are voiceover artists and, different things that we do. But yeah, and it's been such an incredibly awesome experience. But I will say, like, we also like to spend on education. So for us, because of what we've learned before, like, you've got to stay current. So having a support group, like a mastermind group that you're a part of, or a business coaching group, having, people around you that really get entrepreneurship is so important. And then having those, mentors and people that you look up to and go, oh my gosh, what do I do? And having that advice is just so, so important.
Oh, I love that story. That's fantastic. Oh, that's great. Now, one quick thing, the RSA anime video, which I'll make sure for everyone listening that I link to with Dan Pink, it has 16 million views.
Yes.
Just a few.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
Just a few. Now, for you and Eric, right, is your business partner? Yes. For you, I'm looking at your beautiful website now. For you and Eric, was there a point when you, or I should say maybe more for you, because you had been in a business partnership before, did you have any fears about going into this, or did you feel good about it because you both had sort of tested it out a little bit?
One thing I will say is there was fear, but having him as my business partner subsided that. And what's interesting is that we complement each other really well, because there's things that I will be calm about that he won't be. And there's things that he'll be calm about and confident about that I'm not. And so we're able to lean on each other that way. And it's such an important thing to understand. Like, we understand each other's characteristics, our personality types. Like, I'm, when you look at Colby scores, I don't know if any of your listeners know what that is, but it's kind of like a personality test, or it's like a strengths finders where you figure out, like, what is it that you really excel in? And it's not to say that you're bad at anything else. It's just, here's where you should be focusing your attention. And like, for me, I'm like somebody who will take an idea, and I come up with a lot of ideas, but I also like then delegate and execute on them. And then I'm like what they call a fact finder. It's like, I want to do the research and figure out how we can do this. And Eric is what they call a quick start, where it's like he has ideas and then he needs to like pass them off for somebody else to make it happen. Otherwise it goes away. But he comes up with unbelievable ideas. He's an incredible networker and connector. And like, those people, they say you're
visionary.
Good in a Yeah, he's a total visionary. And because of that, like, the way that he can pitch something to somebody is just unbelievable. Like, we have 2 other startups that we have together, and he's the guy that's good in a room. When you hear that expression, good in a room, like, he's good in a room. Like, the door opens and it's like, all right. And they love him, and he's just so genuine and so real, and he's so passionate about what it is that he's doing. So, he's just incredible at those things. So there's times where I'm just like, okay, you're the lead in this meeting because I know he's going to rock it,
Yeah, and I think that's great too.
I'll chime in.
Yeah, knowing what you both are good at. I think with any partnership really, but especially in business, that's the thing of not trying to find someone who does exactly what you do, but that balance there. Of course, other things like values and those kinds of things need to be aligned, but really finding someone that complements you because not just your personalities get along, but also, as you said, he does this really well and you do this other part really well.
Yep, exactly.
And I heard you mentioned the Colby Test earlier, so it's Kolbe. I'll make sure I link to it, but that's what it is, right? Okay.
Yes.
I hadn't heard of that one before.
I think it's like $35 or something to take the test, and you get this whole report. It's really valuable, and it's especially valuable for new hires, or even just, people that are on your team or that you're working with now, or a potential business partner to really understand where they're at. Because I think, people can get so frustrated, and if you're different than somebody else, well, he doesn't do this the way I do it, or he doesn't get it like I do. Well, if you have an understanding of that person and then you actually let them use their strengths and then you use your strengths, it's so much more harmonious instead of frustration, and people can get caught up in that frustration, and it helps you with, kind of the more opposite that you are, the better that you can work together. I think that's what I've. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned also that early on in the business, once you both decided that you were going to do this, that did you sponsor an event or you hosted an actual event that you said was very successful?
We were a sponsor at an event. So we paid to be a sponsor and have a booth at an event of all kinds of marketers and people that we said, this is what they're going to want. And so it was worth it. And that was scary too, because we're like, okay, we've now pretty much, for the most part, exited our previous businesses, and now we're doing this full time. And now we're going to put all of our money into going to New York and, putting ourselves out there. And it was scary, because what if you just end up standing there and nobody comes to your booth? You don't know, but we felt we were, as entrepreneurs do, right? We were ready for the risk. And so we took that risk, and it paid off.
It paid off. And is that something that you suggest for the women listening, this idea of, it sounds like you both were committed to getting in front of the people you thought could use your product? Because I think sometimes a lot of us are pitching to the wrong customer, and then we should think that, our product isn't good, or this isn't working, or it doesn't work for this person who maybe never will be your customer, but get in front of the people who want your brand, right?
Oh, completely. It's so true. And I think people will look at, oh my gosh, there's all of these people that are going to be there, so we should be there and they're going to want to buy our stuff. No, you want to get in front of, it's better to be in the room in front of 200 people, that are really actually your avatar, your person that is interested in whatever problem it is that you're solving, rather than to try and be out there, getting out there to the masses. And so our goal was, we need to get out there, but we need to get out in front of the right people. And all of these people were people that have, products online, people that were selling services and things that they would absolutely use a video sales letter. And so we were like, we're going to give them the new type of video sales letter to do. So definitely, I do say, yes, take the risk, but do your research as well. Don't just throw yourself into something, but make sure that, you're getting in front of the right people. And I guess sometimes, you might not know, but I think with, when it comes to events and conferences and things like that, most of the people that are head of sponsorships will tell you exactly the type of people that will be there. And, we've made the mistake of going to some where, it's a marketing event, and so therefore everybody's going to want our service. Well, not necessarily so, because it might not be the actual decision makers that are attending the conference. It might be the businesses sending their team to get educated, or it might just be somebody who's, wanting to learn more about marketing, and maybe they don't have the budget to do something like a video. So just we definitely do our research in terms of how much are people spending to go there? That gives you an idea of how much, their time and what they're getting. And who are the people? Are the executives? Are they the directors? Are they what level are they in their company? And do they have the ability to make the decision of yes or no? So, and I think that's the same with any kind of advertising or marketing that you do, just getting in front of the right people, because you can get in front of a bunch of people, but if it's not the right people, it doesn't matter.
Right. Absolutely. Now let's talk about whiteboards for a minute. What do you think works so well about whiteboards as a marketing tool? Of course, for you both, for the company, it's just because you do fantastic work also, but what is it about whiteboards in general that make them a great marketing tool?
So I think there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's some really important components that go into it. And we actually have a neuroscientist on our team because we were like, okay, let's understand why these work. We knew that they worked, but we really wanted to know in terms of how we can explain to other people how they work, why. And there's so much that's happening in the brain that makes whiteboard so successful. So if you were to watch a regular talking head video, an interview, or whatever it is, you might get bits and pieces of it, and your brain is responsible for coming up with the images itself. If you're looking at a whiteboard video and you're hearing the voice at the same time you're seeing that concept drawn out, your brain now doesn't have to come up with the image. It gets it. And this is the reason Dan Pink's video works so well, because education reform and what he was talking about could be like complex and maybe a little bit like, wait, what did he say? Let me rewind that. I didn't quite get that. Whereas when you watch the whiteboard video and you see the hand drawing and you see everything going to the same cadence as the voiceover, your brain has so much less to do and it just has the image. It's like, oh, I get it. And the really cool thing that happens that some people don't know is that when you get something, when you understand it, you actually get a hit of dopamine in your brain. And you actually feel good because you're like, oh,
it feels like a win.
I got it. Yeah. And so just having that experience actually makes people feel more connected to your brand or what your message is, because they get it. And people really just want to feel like they understand something. It's really frustrating when you watch something and you're like, okay, but what is it that you do? Okay, I don't get it. And so we like to tell people that our main goal in making videos is making your message impossible to misunderstand. So you watch it, you get it, you're ready to take action.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you, I should say, when you're writing, because do you still write I assume now you have other copywriters. You're not doing all the writing.
We do have other copywriters.
but copywriting for you, because it's such a skill that you have, I don't know, was that something that you studied in school or marketing or something like that? How did you was it just something natural for you as a copywriter, being good at it?
So actually, I've always wanted to write. I actually wrote plays in college. I was writing since I was probably 12 years old. I started my first book, which was probably now would be considered like a young adult novel. It wasn't that great, but it was just, me writing it. And I loved storytelling. So in college, I think I went into college kind of just going, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with a theater major. And I did that because I had done a lot of theater in high school. And then I went on to do theater in college and traveled and performed in Europe, which was awesome. And I got to do that though, because I had talked to one of my advisors and I was like, I don't really want to do all this other stuff that I have to do in theater. I don't really want to build sets. Right. Part of the requirement. And he had suggested to me a contract major. And I was like, well, what's that? He's like, well, we can actually put together your own major that doesn't actually exist, but you'll still have a BA in it. I'm like, what? Really? Okay. And so we did that, and we put together, I did communications and theater were my two majors, and that was what my BA was in both of those. And in communications was a ton of marketing. And so it was this beautiful marriage of storytelling and performance mixed with understanding, marketing and advertising and who you're talking to and why certain campaigns work and why some don't. And you get to, you're actually putting campaigns together for real companies, which was so cool. Like, awesome. You actually got assigned like, okay, you're going to be doing Kia, together their new thing. And then, you got to actually pitch it, which was really cool. So there was that experience also in college. I was introduced to some pretty incredible people that taught screenwriting and that taught some other marketing courses that were writers themselves. And so I think I always had the storytelling part within me. I hadn't really done copywriting until I had my own business after college. And that's when I started to really learn and study. So I would save, and I still do this today, I save like every newsletter. I subscribe to everything. People don't like to have their mailboxes filled up, but I have my, it goes right to the unsubscribe folder, but I know I can go in there and I can, look at the newsletters and the emails and the copy that people that that I know I like their brand and see what they're doing. And I think that's the best way that you can learn is go, well, what's working and speaking to me? I know that works. And you learn from that.
Perfect. Now, what school did you go to? What college? I forgot to ask you that earlier.
I went to Pepperdine University.
Okay, excellent. Yes. Great. So thank you for that background. I wanted to find out about your experience through your businesses, but also beforehand with copywriting especially. So all of that said, and the fact that you too, that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to do that with newsletters because I sign up for all of the businesses that I really love and the people.
Honestly,
and
the best way.
But then I get mad because my inbox is full, but I'm going to do what you do, Summer.
Yeah.
Create a folder.
And it's experience too. It's writing it for yourself and going, well, that worked really well. Well, that didn't. Well, this, you know what I mean? It's like anything, the best education has always been experience. I loved my college experience, but really anything that I have done has come from the work experience and the, putting myself out there. That's honestly, where the real education is.
So since you have so much experience in copywriting, I wanted to ask you, for the women entrepreneurs listening, maybe they're not at the stage to get their whiteboard done, but for copywriting tips, what would you say is your top tip for boosting your copy?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say don't try to say too much. Don't try to overwhelm with too much information. Keep it simple. And you may have heard that before, but it honestly is like the best advice. Again, like make it impossible for somebody to misunderstand. You want the most important thing is that they understand what it is that you're offering. If you're throwing in too many things or trying to educate them on too much, they'll get overwhelmed and disinterested. And as we all know, like attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So you want to hook them in right away and then just stick with that one problem that you're trying to solve. And it doesn't need to be super long. It doesn't even have to be super short. You want it to be engaging, but just simple. Let the brain feel excited that they're like, cool, solution to my problem. And this person gets it because they've been through X, Y, and Z. Always bring in your personal story and your why. Always.
That was going to be another one of my questions. How much does storytelling play into good copywriting?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So for your,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's so important. And think about it. Think of yourself. Think about the ads that you get on TV. Even if a story can be told in 30 seconds or 15 seconds. We see it all the time in commercials. But just think of the things that actually get your attention and think of the story behind it and why. And then you'll realize, oh yeah, there is pretty much story in everything, huh? Or at least the things that work.
Right. So now when creating the whiteboards for your clients with other copywriters that work with them, do the copywriters interview the client to sort of get that story out of them?
Yeah. So what we do is at the very beginning, before we write the script, we give our clients what's called a creative brief. And it's like a questionnaire that they go through and we ask them very specific questions. Like, what objections would somebody have to your product or service? What are the top questions that people generally ask you? Why would somebody stand in line in the cold for hours waiting to get your service or product? So we ask them like specific things that just kind of like pulls out all of that, information that we can then use into the script. And so the copywriter will take that and then have a conversation, like a brainstorm with the client, and then work that into their script. And they can do it, sometimes it's like a ton of information. It's like, okay, we got to get this in 60 seconds, but they can do it.
Is there a video length actually that does work best that you found, especially obviously with whiteboards?
You mean a hosting platform?
No,
Or
length of time for when I'm
oh,
watching
length. I'm
because
sorry.
you
I thought
have
you
a.
said a link. I was like,
Oh no, I'm sorry, a
the
length.
video length. Yeah, you know what? What we have found is 2 minutes seems to be a really successful amount of time. Now, some people will have longer VSLs, video sales letters, and things like that. So we've done long ones that are about 20 minutes. But I would say, and some of them are, for pitches, things that are going to be held in a meeting. They might be 5 minutes long. But for something that's, a brief about us, or just kind of trying to get leads or trying to get people to opt in, 2 minutes has been the sweet spot that we have found.
And I think it's amazing you mentioned earlier that you have a neuroscientist that you work with specifically for the
Yes.
company. That's
Yes.
amazing. Now,
There's so many, things like, okay, what's the timing that needs to happen here? How many images can we get into one frame? How many should we get? Yeah, and it's crazy. There's so much. We actually have a cool book that our neuroscientist actually wrote.
oh yes, tell.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it shows all about all the reasons why whiteboard video works. So there's all kinds of cool things. Some of them I've talked about, but there's some things that you're like, wow, but it makes sense when you see it and you get it.
Oh, great. What's the book? I'll make sure I link
So
to it.
yeah, what I'll do is I'll send you a copy of it so that you can give the download out to your listeners.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. That's fantastic. That gets rid of many of the other questions I was going to ask you just now. That's great. That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Let's take a quick break for a special offer from one of our partners. Do you spend a significant amount of time creating incredibly smart, valuable, and dope content for your audience, only to feel like one or two people see your work when you promote it on social media? Did you know only 5 to 10% of your followers see anything that you post? That is why I love the social media management tool, Meet Edgar. And I had a chance to chat with CEO and co-founder Laura Roeder, yes, a woman, about how Meet Edgar makes sure your work has a better chance of reaching your customer.
What he does that's really different from other tools is repurposes your content so that you can get out of that cycle of creating 5 new updates a day, every day for the rest of time, which is how a lot of small businesses are handling social media, and it's driving them insane because who has time for that? So
Right.
What Edgar does is stores everything in a library and then automatically repurposes and recycles your content for you. And the reason that's a really smart idea is because 5 to 10% of your followers see any status update that you post. So why would you spend all this time coming up with content to post it once or even post it twice when such a tiny percentage of the people who follow you and want to hear from you are going to see it? So the results we see for people, you just get a lot more traffic, you get a lot more exposure, and it saves you a lot of time because once you've built up your library, Edgar's sending everything out for you. You can just go in and chat with people and do kind of the fun stuff on social.
I'm telling you, Meet Edgar has saved me a lot of time in my own business and increased my social media engagement and, more importantly, traffic to my website. Want to give it a try? Go to ElayneFluker.com/Meet Edgar to sign up now and use the promo code SEXY, SEXY, to get 1 month free plus $5 off your second month. That's ElayneFluker.com/Meet Edgar, MEETEDGAR, 1 month free plus $5 off your second month. And now back to the show. So what would you say, Summer, entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Oh boy. I think the biggest thing that it's taught me is that I'm a lot more capable I have a lot more capabilities than I thought I had. You don't realize what you're capable of until you're actually thrown with something. You don't think you're strong enough. You don't think you're smart enough until you actually take on the challenge. You say yes and you do it. And then you realize, that's pretty cool.
I did
it's
that.
very empowering. Yeah.
I love it. So in closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Well, right now, I have to say that my husband is ridiculously supportive of me and has been so amazing. I don't think that I had ever had the kind of support that he gives. I mean, I have friends, I have parents that are wonderful, but he's been with me through a lot. He's been with me since the beginning of the Draw Shop. So he's watched me build, and he's always been such an amazing listener, and somebody that really has always lifted me up, and also, helped me and given me really good advice. He's an entrepreneur himself. I would definitely credit him.
Oh, thank you, hubby.
Yes.
I love it. Now tell us how we can support you. Give everyone the website for the Draw Shop or any other ways that you want us to get in touch with you, and social media. I'll have links to everything, but I want everyone to hear it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are at thedrawshop.com. And I am, if you'd like to email me, I'm totally open to that. I am summer@thedrawshop.com. And we are at The Draw Shop on Twitter. We are The Draw Shop on Facebook and Instagram. Everything is The Draw Shop. So pretty easy to find. I think there might be something out there that's just Draw Shop, but we are The Draw Shop.
The Draw Shop. And thank you for sharing your email. You're fine with me putting a link to that?
Absolutely. If I can help anyone, sure. Yes.
That's fantastic. Summer, thank you so much. This was so fun and interesting. And it's one of those businesses it's one of those things, like you mentioned, the Dan Pink video that we see, we love, but we don't think about, I should say, speak for myself. Sometimes you don't think about the people who create these things, and that there are businesses that put this magic together. So I'm happy to know that a woman like you is behind one of these companies.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Oh, good. Excellent. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
Let's see. I would say always remember that in business and in life, moments are fleeting. So we can get wrapped up in challenges and hard times, but remember, it's a short-term thing. But that also means that the good times are fleeting as well. So enjoy them as best as you can. And no matter what, there's always a little bit of magic around the corner from every experience that you have. It's always there if you're willing to be open to receiving it.
Lovely. Summer, thank you so much. Hold on just a moment. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Summer Felix. To find out more about Summer, to get in touch with her, and to find out more about the Draw Shop, make sure you go to supportissexypodcast.com. Go to the search icon at the top and just type in Summer, SUMMER. Her show notes page will pop up with all of the links, the resources, and again, the ways to get in touch with her. And one of those resources will include that free downloadable book on the 5 neuropsychology reasons why whiteboard videos convert so effectively. Again, go to supportissexypodcast.com. All right, so thank you again so much for listening. I'm so happy to have you here. Whether this is your first time here or your 361st time, can you believe it? 361. I am happy to have you. What I want to make sure you do so that you don't miss an episode and don't miss any of the fabulous women like Summer who we have on the Support is Sexy podcast, please make sure you go right now and click subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast so you'll automatically get new episodes whenever they publish 5 days a week. Click subscribe and we will be here. All right. Thank you again. I appreciate you. And now you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.